Cougar Sports Saturday.
It's complete and another touchdown!
Cougar Sports Saturday. A presentation of KSL Sports. KSL Sports.
Left wing for three. He got it again!
BYU Sports Talk by Cougar fans for Cougar fans. Here are your hosts, Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. On Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM and 1160 AM.
Hope all of you are having a fantastic Saturday afternoon. It feels like summer's kind of unofficially kicking off with the Memorial Day weekend, and kind enough to be joined now by the new Inside Sources host and KSL legal analyst, 38-year legal veteran. You've heard him many years here on KSL News Radio. He's Greg Skordas, joining us now on Cougar Sports Saturday with Mitch Harper and Matt Baiamonte. Greg, thanks for joining us. Probably didn't expect to be hopping on to Cougar Sports Saturday much, but we appreciate you joining us today.
Hey, it's an honor to be with both you guys. It really is.
Thanks, Greg. And you know, we're discussing the Jake Retzlaff civil lawsuit here for sexual assault, and it's a story that I think has been jarring for a lot of people that kind of just see that headline and they see the story, but really for people that maybe aren't as familiar with the legal side of things like you are, just maybe the difference first off between civil lawsuit and a criminal lawsuit.
Yeah, so a civil lawsuit, which is what we're talking about here, it's a civil lawsuit. It's this woman against Retzlaff. A criminal case would be the state of Utah versus Jake. And so it's significantly different in another respect, and that is civil lawsuits are about money only. The only thing she can get in this case, and the only thing she's asking for, are financial damages for her pain and suffering or whatever. Where a criminal case, let's say this was a rape case, it would be the state asking for a prison term of from 5 years and up to life and a fine of up to $10,000. So the burden of proof is different. The way that it's handled in the court system is different. And what the expected outcome is different, financial versus punitive.
Greg, how often in cases like this does it just seemingly come out of nowhere? Because I feel like for BYU fans in particular, this just came out of nowhere. Is there a chance that this also came out of nowhere for BYU?
Yeah, although it's kind of hard to say. That's a good question, because you would have expected that a civil lawyer, these people that are representing this victim, and by the way, she doesn't even list her name, which I think is really weird, but they would have reached out to Retzlaff or his family or someone from the team or something and tried to settle it. People don't just file civil lawsuits out of the blue. So I would assume that he had some level of heads up, and he probably gave his coach and team some heads up as well. Also, some time ago, the Provo Police Department were asked to investigate the case because there was a criminal investigation, and I can't imagine that they didn't do something more than just interview her. They may have interviewed him, may have interviewed the team, may have advised the campus police or something like that, that there was something going on. So I don't think it came out of the blue for everyone. Obviously it did for the public, but probably not for the player and the team.
Talking with Greg Skordas here, the new host of Inside Sources, weekdays from 9 a.m. to noon with Holly Richardson. Congrats on that, by the way, Greg. Looking forward to that. And with this, you've worked, both sides of the aisles with it was sex crimes as a sex crimes prosecutor and criminal defense attorney. With a civil lawsuit, like how do these kind of play out? Is it in what's kind of like the setup of how these sort of cases or lawsuits play out?
Yeah, so I was the head of sex crimes at the DA's office and do a lot of defense work, but I've also handled the civil end of these. I'm the attorney for the Utah Rape Recovery Center, and we represent victims. In a civil case, they file the lawsuit, and then the defendant, in this case Retzlaff, and his attorney will file an answer. They have to be served with it first, and it doesn't look like they've even been served yet. That usually takes about 21 days, and then you go through about a year of what's called discovery, depositions, interrogatories, producing documents and evidence and things like that. And then you'll start sort of a motion procedure and maybe a trial sometime later. But it would be, in my opinion, it would be unusual for this case to get to trial even sometime in 2026. I mean, a case like this could go closer to 2 years than one.
Greg, what'd you make of the allegations against the Provo Police Department and then their response? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, I did too. And I'll tell you what, I mean, I've worked on both sides, and I've been a defense attorney now for 30 years. Provo Police Department is very, very good. They don't roll over on sex crimes cases. They do an adequate investigation. They do a fair investigation. So I would find it difficult to believe that they said some of the things that they're alleged to have said here. Now, that doesn't mean they didn't, but I've never heard anything like the quote that she gave, sexual assault victims never get justice. I have never heard a police officer, let alone somebody from a prestigious agency like Provo City, say something like that. So she may have misunderstood. She may have thought that they may have paraphrased something like that. But the cops don't say victims don't get justice. It's just the opposite. They usually try to encourage somebody to pursue a case so that they can do their investigation and work the case up.
Were there any other aspects of this lawsuit, Greg, that kind of caught your attention as something that maybe isn't common that you see in these type of lawsuits?
Yeah, even in civil lawsuits, you would expect each party to name themselves. She just goes by Jane Doe AG. Now, in a criminal case, the media sometimes doesn't release the name of the victim, but in civil cases they do. And the only exception would be if she's a minor, but she's clearly not. So she is going under a Jane Doe, an alias, but she names him quite explicitly. So I think a judge might frown on that a little bit. Another thing is they filed it in Salt Lake County. The Retzlaff lives in Utah County. The acts occurred in Utah County. The Utah County Provo Police Department investigated it. So there's very few ties to Salt Lake County except that she happens to live there, but wasn't there for any of the acts. So I think there's a strong likelihood that this case will be transferred to Utah County from Salt Lake County. I know that's not significant maybe, but to me, I thought, why did they file this in Salt Lake County?
Well, and to follow up on that, does her name ever have to come out, or do you think it's a case of where Jake's got a big name and that's maybe the reason? I mean, I know we're trying to speculate, but that's not probably the right move. But does that eventually have to come out for these sort of lawsuits? You know,
if I was a judge, I would say, look, if you're going to file a lawsuit, you need to disclose who you are. Yeah. I'm not, and I never will be. But I've never filed a civil lawsuit, and I've done civil lawsuits just like this. But we name our client. If you're going to file a lawsuit, you're going to stand up to the plate. You're going to identify who you are, and you're going to make yourself known and tell the truth. And so the fact that she's not, and I'm not saying she's not telling the truth. I just think it's unusual that she's, I hate to even use the word hiding, but she's just not disclosing who she is. I don't know that a judge is going to put up with that. And I'm not trying to be a homer for BYU. I'm really not.
Right.
I mean, I've been a Utah man my whole life, but I just don't like this lawsuit. For some reason, I just don't like it.
Greg, what are the odds that there's some sort of resolution before the football season begins?
Almost none. I mean, the football season's probably going to be starting here in the next month or two, and the games will start, at the end of the summer. So I would say none, although I would say this, it being a civil suit instead of a criminal suit, I think it is less likely, not unlikely, but less likely that he'll be suspended from the team just because of this. Certainly a criminal investigation or criminal charges, you'd expect the team to say, well, we're going to take you off the team for now, let you work the case out, and if you win, the case gets dismissed, we'll put you back on. But if you're convicted, obviously you're kicked off the team. In a civil case, I would hope, but I don't know. I don't know what the school is going to do, that they would allow the young man to play. There's also the potential for a Title IX investigation within the campus, and that could have its own repercussions, including removing him from the team and removing him from the school. But I don't know to what extent a Title IX investigation is going on right now, or that the NCAA is involved.
Last couple things here for you, Greg. Again, we talked with Greg Skordas here on Cougar Sports Saturday on KSL News Radio, KSL legal analyst, Greg Skordas, and host of Inside Sources. Anything to take away from the statement from Jake Retzlaff's attorney, and anything that stood out to you from that statement?
Well, I think he's playing it close to the vest. He's got to say what he said, which is, hey, we're going to take a look at it. Our client's innocent. I thought it was a little unusual that he said our client is factually innocent. I don't know what he means by that. I mean, he either did it or he didn't, but factually innocent, I guess if I was to read between the lines, I'd say maybe what he's saying is that there was some physical contact, but it was consensual. And I that may not be at all what he's saying, but I just thought that was an unusual statement. But also just saying, hey, we want this to play out in the courts and not in the court of public opinion. We're looking forward to our day in court. Those are the kind of things that I would have expected and probably would have said myself.
Greg, last thing for you. You have such extensive history in situations like this. Does this remind you of anything you've been through in the past?
Well, I was around when Gary Croton was the coach, and we had that whole BYU scandal down there. I represented one of the young men involved in that case. And I mean, every case is different. Every case stands on its own. My kid got acquitted. But he got booted off the team in the meantime. The coach lost his job and career. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the players were all acquitted by a jury. But, boy, the court of public opinion and just what happened before then was really hard. And I felt badly for my particular client. He couldn't play anymore. He was a DB, very, very good player, had to go back to Texas, lost a lot for a crime that was ultimately dismissed. So it kind of reminded me of that. I've represented some players from other schools, Utah and Weber State. They're just tough. It's really tough when you see something like this.
Well, Greg, we know that we appreciate you coming on during a topic that gives us insight and expertise from your extensive background. Again, congrats on the new show, Inside Sources, 9 a.m. to noon weekdays here on KSL News Radio. I think all of us are going to be listening to it. So, again, we appreciate the time on this holiday and enjoy the rest of your weekend, Greg.
Hey, thanks a lot. I hope I get to join you in the future.
Looking forward to it. Greg Skordas here on Cougar Sports Saturday. We're taking a break. On the other side, we'll get into more of the story next here on Cougar Sports Saturday.